Let us start with the first keynote speaker, and we are delighted to welcome back at Quant Professor Ruggero Bertelli from University of Siena and a longtime partner of Quant, as we of Class NBC have been partnering with the event. Ruggero.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Good morning, buongiorno, ci sono, per chi ha bisogno, ci sono anche le cuffie per le traduzioni in fondo, quindi lo dico, mi è stato detto di dirlo e io, ecco, sono là. Good morning, and for me it's really a great pleasure to be here, and in 2005 I was in Milan, I was there, and thanks God I am here today, so I'm really happy to be here. And 20 years of innovation, 20 years of Daniele investments, 20 years of, let me say, value. 20 years of value for the industry, 20 years of value for the people, because the industry is the industry if it creates value for people. This is for investors. And yesterday night, the 13th edition of Diamond Award, I saw a lot of active managers awarded, active managers. They create value. For whom? For the investor, obviously. So I saw the value. And my idea is to speak about value, the value of not overtaking, active risk and return, risk and return management. So this is my idea, to speak about value. And now it's very important to speak about value. You know, value for money. Money of whom? Who spend the money? The investor. So we have to create value for the investor. This is our mission. And this is a very important mission. Every of you, active managers, have to create value. It's very simple. And probably a valuable, perceivable value. Perceivable, not only in an index or in risk performance index. Value is something that you have to perceive. This is very important for us. So this is my topic, but it's not working. Something happened, but it's not working properly. Probably we have to change battery or something like that. I prefer to have my, if possible, please. The energy, the problem of energy is very important. Oh, very well. Thank you very much. Thank you. Is there value in choosing not to overtake? This is the problem. This is a famous imagine of Il Sorpasso, the Italian movie, very, very... something is better not to overtake. No? Something is better. So the idea that not overtaking look like reducing performance. But sometimes the highest form of performance is not overtaking. In racing, an overtake is spectacular, but a fail overtake ends the race. In investing, chasing extra return can look like skill, but unmanaged risk can erase years of compounding. This is the uncomfortable truth. Clients don't fire you because you are underperformed by 2%. They fire you because you exposed them to losses they didn't understand and weren't prepared for. Outperformance is celebrated in bull markets, risk control is remembered in bear markets. This is the idea of value that we have to follow. So I want to apply this very simple concept to the 2055 very positive year for the Italian equity market. So focus on the Italian market. I love, obviously, Italian market. Why? Because Italian needs active managers that create portfolio and add value in this little Italian market. And I saw this year, risk on, full speed ahead, going along the index has been the easiest way to generate returns. Probably is not evident, but we have two lines, the ETF lines and the index lines. This is obvious. They are not, they are the same. So it's very easy to invest in Italy to make performance. Buy an ETF, very simple. This is the largest ETF in the Italian market. So it's very easy, long only. And so I ask myself, taking a sample of 35 Italian specialized index funds, not index, sorry, UCITS funds, and I made a comparison. So the ETF or the index is the same performance. Was after the year 137 more or less, and so there are only 4 funds out of 35 that beat the markets. But if we, and this is the first point, if we take this moment, the ruination day, economists called ruination day, the April when is completely unuseful to remember. So in that time, 2, 4, 6, a number of funds make better than the index. Okay, so let's take a rule. You know, there is the UCITS diversification rules, the 5-10-40 rule, and the ETF derogation. So a standard UCITS rule is max 10% of NAV of net asset value in securities issued by a single issuer. Investment above 5% must not exceed 40% of the net asset value in aggregate. This is commonly known as the 5-10-40 rules. Very simple. Why? The purpose of this rule? Ensure diversification and reduce concentration risk, obviously. But there is a derogation. An index fund can up to 20% of net asset value in securities, or up to 35% in exceptional market condition when justified by the index composition. The index must be sufficiently diversified, sufficiently is meaning nothing. It must represent an adequate benchmark. It must be published in an appropriate manner. So is clear, when markets are concentrated, rules force discipline. And discipline can look like underperformance. Not overtaking is not passivity. It's a risk-adjusted discipline. So the manager is a risk-adjusted performance manager. This is known. This is very clear. But let's look. This is the composition of FTSE, FTSE MIB, and UCITS limit. This is the composition of index. Free float weight. This is very important for Italian market. Free float weight. Okay? Intesa Sanpaolo, Unicredit, Ferrari, and so on. Starting in December 2024 and to December 2025. So this is the weight, free float weight. Interesting, obviously. This is very known. For us, it's known, this kind of... if a UCITS fund must ensure ongoing compliance with these limits, 5, 10, and 40 limits. And the problem is that there is a completely different portfolio allocation. This is the capped index. I must to rebalance the weights to respect the capitalization and the UCITS limits. Obviously, inactive managers can compose the portfolio whatever you want, but he won't. But this is the composition of a capped index, completely different. And you can follow this index, not that index. And considering the anchoring effect, for the investors, the FTSE MIB is always in the newspaper, is in the TV. The index is there. So that number of performance is very known for the people. But the active manager have to see that. Active management in UCITS funds must be safe and prudent. This is the limit. This is the limit. So I reconstruct a capped FTSE MIB index that can be tracked by a UCITS fund. There is a difference, obviously. In the kind of market we have experienced during the 2025, obviously. Okay? So the things can change. But this is the history of the 2025. Okay? If we use that index, this one, this is the capped index, and that is the ETF, as you can say, situation change about the performance. Obviously, this is obvious. The situation change. Okay, 50-50, like it's like toss a coin. 50-50. But this is the 9 of April 2025 ranking. This is the capped index, and that is the ETF. So a lot of funds outperformed the capped index in 9 of April. A lot. Congratulations. Award for this. Okay, performance and risk. So this is some numbers, total return, and I mean, obviously is always total return, so dividend reinvested, and annual mean returns. There is a difference, obviously. And let's look the volatility, annual volatility with the mean 0 is very useful because it's symmetric, not the mean, but the 0 point. Annualized Ziemba symmetric downside volatility. Ziemba was, I think, take the downside volatility and multiply for 2. So you duplicate the downside, and you can compare this value with the annual volatility standard. Very interesting to be sensitive to the asymmetry. And the ratio between volatility and downside volatility. Okay? So, unfortunately, okay, the uncapped index was riskier. This is the uncapped, the ETF, and this is the capped. Obviously, there is a lower volatility and a lower downside volatility, but the ratio was more or less the same. If we look at the maximum drawdown, there is something that is uncomfortable, but this is the number, okay? Higher returns and higher risk, the uncapped, okay. But let's take a look about risk-adjusted performance. So the sharp with the volatility mean 0 and risk-free 0. The Ziemba sharp is only the return and the downside risk, double downside risk. The Kalman ratio, the Diamond ratio, let me say, is important. And the Diamond ratio was presented in a quant in 2011. And so all the risk-adjusted performance indicators are better for the uncapped. So it's not easy to beat the uncapped index in this situation, because the problem is that the risk-adjusted, considering the risk, the concentration risk, the risk-adjusted performance was better for the uncapped index. So the manager had to affront this reality. Let's take a closer look. Performance. When we look at the pure performance of the FTSE MIB in 2005, there is no comparison. Funds are outperformance, obviously. In the right, we can see not the name of the fund is not important now, and it's not really not important. And the four that beat the FTSE MIB index and the others. This is our UCITS index, the capped index, just in the middle. Okay? 15 out of 35 outperformed the real index. This is a 2005 situation, obviously. It's only this. Consider the risk. Okay. Ranking by Ziemba downside volatility. I just put the formulas. And so this is the UCITS index, and this is the FTSE MIB index. Looking at the risk is completely different this situation, obviously. This is the ranking by volatility. Fund managers have been more successful in shielding investors from the dark side of the force. And this is very important to create value. Obviously, there is a sensitivity to the asymmetry of the return distribution. So if I rank by Ziemba or volatility, something different happens, okay? Something different happens. So we can rank by maximum drawdown. Maximum drawdown obviously help us to understand the idea of exposure to risk. Difference in maximum drawdown largely reflects difference in managerial risk discipline, because they are all concentrated in the Italian market. I avoided the peer compliant funds. I avoided it because the composition of the portfolio is different, considering mid cap, small cap, so only the large cap funds, let me say, okay? And ranking by Ulcer Index. Ulcer Index is very known in quant. We had the presentation of Ulcer Index probably in 2006. A presentation dedicated to Ulcer Index, indice dell'ulcera. And when visibility is limited, overtaking is avoided. This is a clear principle. If I don't see clearly, I am not an ETF that go straight. Probably I have a look to the situation. This is clearly this is value. So something of this value must be perceived in risk-adjusted performance. It's not easy to perceive because of the situation I have shown you, cioè as is the situation that FTSE MIB is better in risk-adjusted performance measure than the capped FTSE MIB. So we have this problem, so it's not easy to perform. Anyway, this is ranking by Kalmar. This is the FTSE MIB, and this is the real benchmark. The Kalmar is, as you know, the ratio between performance, geometric performance, and the maximum drawdown. 27 out of 35 funds outperform the index. This is the Martin ratio. The denominator is the Alser index, 27 on 35, is more or less the same. And ranking by Ziemba, the Ziemba downside risk, and ranking by Sharp. It's very interesting that this is not very different with these two, by Sharp. And then ranking by Diamond ratio. Diamond ratio is capable to sense the difference of asymmetry and the diversification. So the Diamond ratio is very, I think, useful, but I am in a conflict of interest. So let me say, you can use I love the Ziemba index because of the sensibility to the asymmetry of distribution, but you can use whatever you want. The important thing is considering this difference. This difference is very important to make a comparison. Now I present you the sample. Obviously, there is not the key to understand. Probably you can criticize the kind of sample. This is not important. My message is not that I don't want to create an award. Absolutely not. But only a focus, for example, on total net asset value. Let's think about the Italian market and the dimension of a fund. It's very important for an asset manager. This is a very important element of free, active risk and risk-adjusted performance management. This is the value. The other consideration when I think about this sample of a fund is that the market, the Italian market, needs active managers. The distribution of money between the company, the Italian company, is very important. Very important. The increasing of the quality of the market is very important. It's very important the corporate governance that this kind of fund is able to do. The interest of the minority interest, and so on. I am convinced that we as industry have to show this kind of value. This kind of value for money. This kind of value for money is very different from beat the benchmark or perform better than, because we are risk and performance active manager. Thank you for your attention.